Hey, welcome everybody to ACES53. Thanks for joining today, Ed. How are you?
Good. I always join. Usually.
But sometimes I try not to let you in, but I
No.
decided let's go ahead and keep you in here today.
Oh, I appreciate you doing that for me. My head, everything's
In
loud.
all seriousness, welcome to ACES53. What does ACES53 stand for? I know. I'm a funny guy sometimes. Attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, and smile. What's the 53? The best cards you can have in a deck is 4 aces and then a joker, so hence ACES53. Ed ran across that in college, and one of the professors taught it to him. We thought it was kind of a fun name for here. So if you like listening to us, come and subscribe. And basically on Tuesdays, like earlier this week, what we do is we bring up a topic, and then on Thursdays, as often as possible, we have somebody who comes in who is a joker. And what is a joker? Somebody who has specialized knowledge or skill who's going to share that information with us. And some days, like today, it's just going to be Ed and I diving in a little bit deeper to what we talked about previously on the show. So, Ed, how's your week going so far?
Good. We were talking consistency this week, so we're consistently with us.
Yes.
We live what we preach.
We do. So that's the whole thing. Even though we take off times for like holidays, we take those weeks off, we're still pretty much here twice a week. Even if one of us has to do it and the other one's got something going on. So,
yes. I think last week you did it without me, right?
Right. Last week I did NLP, and then next week you will likely do it without me because I will not be in the country.
What?
Yeah.
No, you can do it. You can do it from down there.
Yeah, from the swim up bar. What do you want to talk about?
How important it is to take time off and connect with people.
Consistency. I'll take another drink.
Well, it'll probably be happy hour. Oh, it's 2-drink happy hour.
Yeah.
What time is happy hour? 8 a.m.
It is all inclusive. So
sorry about that. 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. is that.
Yeah, no, I'm going to a wedding in Mexico. So I will be there Wednesday through Sunday. And we'll see. So anywho, back to consistency.
Well, enjoy that because it didn't work for you.
I will. I'll come back with a lovely shade of tan that will turn freckled and then go back to pale and freckles like I always do.
All right. Well, enough personal stuff.
That's right.
I did this thing the other day to see who I was as a person, whether I'm a pioneer, influencer, and all these different categories of what you are. And come to find out, I'm in the top 15% of the country who can do what I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Is that because of the documentary, because of the book, or what puts you in the top 15%?
Just how I can deal with things. Like I can come up with ideas and I can sell it.
Gotcha.
A lot of people can come up with ideas, but they can't sell it to you. Right. They can't do both. And come to find out, that's only 15% of the population can do both.
So it's not just for your industry. It's a overall personality test you took?
Well, it's an overall test on who you are as a person to figure out, different things about you.
So do we go for the cheap shot and say you have a personality?
I don't. I have one feeling, and it's always this feeling.
It's always anger.
No. Yeah, that's like today when I'm sorry. Today, this week flew by. We on the radio show. We're recording it, and we're having issues in the beginning because we always do with the studio because we have to connect to them, and they're like, go through all this, and I go through all my stuff, and then finally they go, oh, I forgot to do this one thing. No. No shit. So you're gonna make me go through all this, and then at the end you're gonna go, oh, by the way, I forgot to hit this. Yeah, can you just hit that now? And he's like, are you whatever you said? I'm like, yeah, I'm getting there. It was like,
I got you.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
That's why we talk about having a checklist, having a script. They even talk. Buddy of mine's a pilot for. Funny side note, he's a captain. Sorry, not a pilot. And so if we go out places, the typical question, what do you do? Oh, I'm a captain for an airline. Oh, for Spirit. Oh, so give him another time. All the time.
Who owns Spirit?
Look of impressed and then disdain every single time. So it's
who owns Spirit?
They just got bought out by JetBlue, so I don't know who that is now. But
I would start saying I work for JetBlue.
That's what I think he's going to, but he still has the yellow-ish tint to his stuff right now. But yeah, it's fun just because when we go out, it's the oh to oh. So,
it's funny. It's like I have these big ass monitors in front of me. And when I have a white screen up, I have so much extra light on me.
Very, very tan.
Yeah. Well, no, it's these cameras, put the years on your face. And, they'd say the ad's 10 pounds. I have like 5 cameras on me right now.
I just have the one, but yeah, I have 2 different lighting systems. And you're right. Like the monitors, I put them on late night mode, because if not, it's blinding, like The Shining, coming a vampire.
Yeah, I haven't fixed the lighting in here. Plus, I'm probably be leaving out of this building anyway. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I gave I don't need this. I have a ton of space, and it's like I don't need it, and I was telling you before, I don't even sit in my big office anymore. I sit in 2 places: studio or here, where I do the other stuff I do. I edit and work at this. So because a lot of the stuff we do, if you're doing a lot of I know eventually I'm not fully going to be doing it, but a lot of this time on editing, and when you use these different softwares, which we'll get into later, you're waiting. Right. You put it in there, you drop it in there, and then you go do other things. And that's what I do. I sit here, do my actual normal job. And then, as they get done, move it over, boom, 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 and keep going. So it makes more sense. Why would I want to get up from here and go into my big office, sit there for 30 minutes and do a couple files and then come back?
And come right back. So you should just have like the Jetsons, a little, automatic chair that moves you back and forth.
Yeah, I do, but it's with my legs.
I gotcha. Wow.
All right, so we're when I was looking at the video that we had talked about before, it was about consistency with posting, and you had talked about at the event you were at how they were talking about what you should do, and I didn't see your notes if you sent them.
Yeah, it was basically it was Master Ken, who was the guy who did the presentation. The real guy's name was Matt Page, I think. Let me look. Yeah, Matt Page. And so he was talking about how, as they're martial arts studio owners, so they're brick and mortar, have to have people come in the door, but yet social media was a way that they grew that following. And as a joke, so as we talked about on Tuesday, he got the idea from watching The Office, and he created this guy, and I forget what he makes up a martial art, right? And it's just dumb videos. So just go and Google Master Ken, but people love to watch it. It's full of sarcasm. They
want to be entertained.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But that turns into conversion, where not only does he get hired out to go and actually speak on it, but people know who he is. And because of his comedy, they want to dig into it more. So it is interesting that you always hear about create a personal brand first, and then your business will grow. We'll take a look at some of the people that are big in that industry, right? Like people know who Brad Lee is, but they don't know that he owns Lightspeed or co-owner of Lightspeed. They know who Brad Lee is.
Right.
Now I would say Andy Milet, people know who First Form is, but they know it because of Andy. Or sorry, I just screwed that up.
Ed Milet.
Ed Milet. It's Andy Frisella. Sorry.
I was like, who are you talking about? I didn't know who Andy Milet was. Had that anyway.
Yeah. First Form is Andy Frisella, and but people know him as Ed Milet. Right. And it's the supplement company.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's literally the number 1, and then Form, they did PHORM, and it's all supplements. So if you've ever listened to Andy, he talks about buying a brick and mortar store, and I think their first year in business, they made like $700 profit. They slept in the back. The same story you hear from like Alex Hormozy, all these people who sleeping on the floor, getting things done. But even Alex Hormozy, like people have heard of Gym Launch, but not until after they heard of Alex. Right, and so a lot of what Matt Page was talking about is posting for consistency, and you need to have 2 different ways to do it, right? So they obviously have ones for their brick and mortar business, but it's the personal branding, even in satire, that ends up bringing more business. And the good news about why do you need a personal brand and a professional brand is, let's say you're an employee. Well, if you have a personal brand and you leave the company, you want your brand to follow you. Right? Or if your company shuts down, whatever it is, you decide that you want to go into another venture. Well, if you only do things as your company name, then people may not follow you. And I'm guilty of that. I post way more under Subtle Skills than I do under Brian Galke. But there's personal reasons for it.
You should.
But well, we'll talk about that one offline. But
everything's more consistent and everything's above board. But anyway, I get it. Before you couldn't because of what you did. But I've always had a lot of advertising people didn't understand that in my industry. You have if you own a company, you have the company, and then you also have you. Because eventually if something happens, either you sell the company or you close it up because things change or whatever, you still have you're the brand that moves on. People buy you, not the company you work for.
Yep, that's exactly it. And this day and age, what do people do? And we've sat in rooms where one particularly funny talking guy, who sounds funny when he talks, I should say, talks up all the time. What's the first thing people do is they go and Google you the minute that they find out who you are. So if I ever get somebody's business card, which if they don't have a QR code, that's a whole other thing we should talk about. But when you get a business card, what do? Go and Google their name first.
People have business cards?
You would not believe, 2 or 3 months ago, this guy came out, walked up and handed me his card. It's like, "Hi, I'm Steve." I'm like, "You don't even know what I do. And if you're wasting card, or if I even want your card." So you're a little premature there. But it is just interesting because that is the old school technique, right? Like, instead of, do I want these business cards? I'll take every business card. And we were guilty. I've been at trade shows where, people will put their card into the fishbowl to get the Yeti cooler or whatever it is that you have. But the smarter way to do it, and that's even in Alex's book, I'm 180 pages in or something. That's what they're talking about, is for their advertising dollars. The more strategic you are to advertising to the customer, the less you're going to spend and the more you're going to make. Mm-hmm. And that's where business cards were good back in the day, but now you want strategic customers, right? Yeah. So even with this guy, the Master Ken thing, I'm not in martial arts. I would still watch him, but I obviously wouldn't reach out to him for business. But as he's doing the entertainment and people share his videos and a few become viral here and there, what's he going to do? He's going to get people into his business as well. So if you know that his martial arts studios are in the area, he does backlinks, which a backlink is while you're doing a video for one thing, you link to your other businesses at the same time.
How do you do that?
So it's way out there.
How do you do a backlink?
You can put it in the comments. You can put it on your website. I actually do not do a good job of that. Our friend Martha, she's got an entire course on that. Like, what you post to YouTube, you should have a link in there somewhere to go back to your homepage. On your webpage, you should link to your YouTube, and then your newsletter. Not only are you setting it out to your list, but you also should have links to all the YouTube's videos that you did that week, and other information. So it's just multiple ways to get people back to you, to your website.
So basically, wherever you post, you need to be putting how to get back to your website and other stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you and I talked about it last week or Tuesday. We know people who have lost their entire Facebook account or their Facebook group. And so if you don't have a way that you're getting that information offline, it can be a disaster. There was a guy named Neil Home, Neel. Home is his Instagram. And 2 years ago, he got wiped clean and had to start from scratch. Now, he's made an impressive comeback since then. But it's a good point to people of, look, if it's free social media, or even if it's paid, if it's not your platform, it's not yours. So you need to be downloading your customers, everything else. That's why, people went from Rolodexes to CRMs. So if an employee leaves, quits, is fired, or passes away, you still have access to the data and it's not stuck in their head, right?
Right. Or it's not in their Rolodex that went to their house.
Exactly.
But so the big push, like I just got hit up by somebody to promote their new type of app that's kind of like taking the Facebook groups off of Facebook into something else. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you more about it once we finalize this stuff. But I'm telling you, get a viral video, and it's amazing how things change.
Well, I'm glad you found the right bikini to make that happen.
My tits finally got big enough. I ate enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's consistently being consistent. And that was the one thing I did with my lives. I was consistent every day now, multiple times a day. Yeah, it might not be the best. Not everybody watched them, but it does over time consistently be there. Now and then cutting up stuff and putting it on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and LinkedIn and all the other places, and I've done more now. And not only is it important to be consistent, but it's important to have good content.
Right.
Because I was consistent a couple of years ago, and then I stopped just because I didn't like the direction. But.
Did you see Qasim's post from this week?
Mm-hmm.
He said, everybody's a writer now. You have no excuse not to have content because you can go to ChatGPT. if you're stuck on anything, and ask it to do it. Now, here's the big challenge, and you and I have heard this same thing before because we've been to the same events. ChatGPT is good. Having a VA is good, but you need to still customize it for your voice. So you can go and find anything on the internet, but people will know if you're the one typing up your notes and all of a sudden you're copy and pasting, that tone, the language that's used and everything will change and people will know it's not you. And so that's the important part is it's fine to use other resources, but you still got to put your own touch on it or else people will just go away because they started following you for you, not for the content that was created by something else.
Right. Well, I don't know if you know this, but I just read that Spotify is using AI to copy podcasters' voices so that they can do it in other languages.
Wow. What you saw the I guess turmoil about 3 months ago with Zoom, where Zoom was saying we have the rights to, if you use Zoom and use Zoom recordings, we as Zoom have rights to all your content and your likeness. And people lost their mind. Yeah. Right. Because they were looking at like that way Zoom could basically take your voice, your content, repackage it and sell it as their own. Now, of course, once they got caught, oh no, that's not what we meant. But it was in there for a reason. So those days are coming. And if you want to, and I know it's going to be a little bit of a reach, but that's why a lot of the actors and things are going on strike is because computer generated images and things. Well, now look at what was the big movie that people flipped out about a few years ago, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, because the Oompa Loompas, instead of hiring people, they hired a handful and did digital CGI, right? Was it computer graphic versions of everyone? And so therefore, what would have normally been a major film that would have got a lot of actors paid, they paid a handful of actors a little bit of money and just made digital models of them all.
Is that wrong? I'm just kidding.
Question. It's making the most amount of profit, right?
Right.
The union was hurt by it, so we're people.
Right.
And so
have a job. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're looking at that now. Actors are worried about that. Right. Because right now, last week hung out with 2 actors, one of them being Chris Casamassa, and then there were some other ones that were there. But Chris gets paid every time Mortal Kombat is played on something, right? Well, so he did his voice, I think, for one of the video games. So in the acting industry, there's multiple ways to get paid. You're paid for the gig. You're paid on royalties afterwards, depending on what level you're at. So producers, executive producers, the more things that are out there. And the really fascinating thing about that is, as a normal employees, we're never taught to own any piece of our own life. We're taught to work hard and hope for a raise. But if you look at most people that are entrepreneurs, what do? Like you write your own book. So you can still stay in an industry, but you're creating your own content that lives beyond you and you're clocking in and out of the clock.
Right.
But
books don't make you money.
Way to do it. Yeah.
What you do from the book makes you money, right?
Right.
Because now you're an author.
Yeah. And what do they say? Author is the first part of authority.
Is that what it is? Is that what they're saying?
That's the one. I literally got an email on that a little bit earlier today. So there's somebody who's talking about how to write your book in an hour. So anyway.
Oh yeah, it's got to be authority if you're writing your book in an hour. It's got to be an amazing book. Yeah, and again, if you're writing a book, please go do it well. Don't do shortcuts. Pay what you need to, because there's nothing worse than creating a book that doesn't look great or isn't good.
Right. And you can get in. Look, you can self-publish. It's harder. You can get into a book for as little as $2,500 to $100,000, or that's if you're self-publishing. Right now, you can go to an external agency who wants to publish your book for you, but you no longer own those stories and you can't use it. So you have to know what your long-term plan is. It's fine to have a major publishing house publish your book. Just know you signed your life rights away to whatever's in that book. Now, any new content you create, different story, but we know people who have had their books published by a publisher and then they can't reuse some of that content.
Correct.
So it all depends on the long-term goal.
And it also depends on how much you got paid and other stuff too, right? And how you did it. There's a lot of alternative issues now. And then, you have to be careful where you go through. I mean, there's companies that recently went under, they run out of money, and then, they come back, oh, we want to publish your book, but we need 20 grand more. It's like, really? And that's not mine. I'm just saying, be careful where you're going because you never know. Things can happen.
Exactly. So just to give people some math around what you talked about, people gave this company $40,000. They went under. Then they came back and said, "Hey, we're back under new ownership, but we don't have your 40,000. However, we can finish the book if you'll give us another 20." So if you can imagine 50% more, what are people going to do? If not, they're out already the 40.
Right. They're going to do it.
If not more. So it's, I've heard people had different mixed emotions about what they were going to do. But, you're not talking about cheap money. And as you said, books get you out there, but nobody's ever been made rich from a book. They've been made from what they get as a result of being an author.
Right. But I mean, some people have because they did trilogies and other stuff, but they're a real writer, but not most people who write any book.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I'm not. You said it right. I'm just clarifying a little bit,
Absolutely. You're right, because it needs a dog ear on it to say most people who write a book, if you are, writing Harry Potter and that's all you do, different story. But most people, the book is the modern day advanced business card, right? Because you can say when you're introduced and everything else.
And for most people who don't understand, a dog ear is where you fold over the edge of the book, which isn't done much these days because everything's electronic. You would actually lose your device if you did that.
That's true. Look, I am still a nerd though.
For young people who don't know what dog ear mean, it doesn't mean it's a dog's ear.
Yeah. So I do that. Like I just did Greg Reed's. I was reading his book and I put a dog ear. Yeah, you can kind of see it.
Is that why you're only on a certain page of Alec Hermosi's book because you read too many books, or are you just really slow at reading?
So Alex says I had to sit and read a little bit more. Greg's was short. You can read it in a quick sitting. Alex's is go research what he talks about. And sometimes it's just 200 pages. So I get a little distracted. I tried to go to Starbucks this morning, knock out a few pages. I'm like 3 and I'm like, oh, let's see what's going on the computer. So I have to be in the mood to read that kind of stuff.
That's why I like listening to it. So
yeah.
But they say listen and have the book at the same time so you can highlight and do other things. But when you brought it up earlier, I wanted to add to it. Now I brought it all up and I can't remember what I was going to say. So,
we were talking about books. We were talking
about what he says on. Oh, he did not believe in putting content out there at all. He thought it was stupid in the beginning. He was like, it's a waste of time until he saw these brands go viral in a few days, So. I should say these people make billions of dollars in a few days because of the viral content, with what they've sold. Yeah.
The interesting thing about the modern day and age is, like, even let's take Matt Page, aka Master Ken. He said some of the videos that went viral were ones he recorded years prior. Mm-hmm. But what happens is somebody sees a video, it's funny, and that's the nice thing about YouTube. It's harder to make money on YouTube because that's where all the major content creators go. But once somebody's on your channel, what do they start doing? Scrolling through all your different videos, and you never know what it will lead to. Versus when you're going on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, you're fighting the scroll. What's next? What's next? Versus on YouTube, I want to go deeper. It's very rare. Yeah. The only time I dive into somebody's like Instagram or Facebook is if they send me a friend request and I want to figure out if they have bot or not. Otherwise, I very rarely go back unless I'm researching someone. So if I'm going like, I didn't know several of the speakers who are going to be at the event in Nashville on October 27th. So I went on Instagram, I friended them, and I went back and watched a few of their videos to understand who they were and their personality. But if it's just the normal person, I don't really dive into it. Do you?
No, but you did it for a different reason, so you could walk up to them and tell them everything about them before they knew what you did.
Do my research.
Most people don't do that, but yeah.
On a total side note, I'm in the middle of Craig Siegel's book right now called, let me find it.
I'm sorry, how many books do you read at the same time?
Well, this one's Audible, so I listen to it while I'm on the plane.
Gotcha.
It's actually really good. I like it. It's in a weird parallel to my own life in that, like in the book, he was like, oh, this, and then I just got done. I took an NLP class. I'm like, I just got out of an NLP class. He's like, oh, one of my favorite movies to watch is The Greatest Showman. I like The Greatest Showman. And he's like, my favorite person is Batman. I'm like, I like Batman. So it's a funny book. Good. I will do a short video about that, but no, it's a really good book about some interesting things. I don't want to give it all away, but I'd recommend it to people.
Okay. We'll recommend it to people.
I will.
Yeah. And stop reaching out through Instagram and DMing me and telling me you can help me when you don't even have a clue what I'm doing.
So
where are we at with time? I don't even know. We're 25.
We're at 25 minutes. Yeah, I agree. That's cold DMs. Look, Alex talks about in his book, it's the way he grew his business. But at least you're not sending it to everybody. Like my favorite one is, hey, you look like a great motivational speaker. No. Oh, hey, I can really help you. What do you do? You reached out to me. I didn't reach out to you. Or the other one I get, the guy sent me an email and said, oh, and I do work for Alex Hormozi. I'm like, I just want to respond back and go, I know who does Alex's stuff. So you're busted. So I think I told this one 6 months ago, a guy said, oh, no. I said, like Alex Hormozi. But the email I got today said, I worked with Alex Hormozi. And I'm like,
well, he might have when he was younger.
Yeah. So it's just funny what people reach out with.
Yeah, I mean, it just takes time to build everything. And that's the whole purpose of what we're talking about today, consistently. Set up a way of how you're going to do it and stay consistent on that. Whatever you agree with, whatever you decide to do, whether it's, there are some YouTube channels, they do one video a month and do really well, but they're consistent in what that quality of that video is. You need to figure out what you want to do and where that's at. And like myself, I spent Saturday going through and setting up for the whole next 2 months of my content stuff. The only thing I don't ahead of time do is my date, because we do a daily show and I want to cut up the daily show and have it current stuff. And that was the one thing that was wrong with sometimes with having certain people. I don't want it 24 hours old. I want it out within 6 to 8 hours. So,
and that's the nice thing about having the tools we have now, that we talked about this months ago. I mean, we've been doing this for 9 months now.
I don't know. It seems like forever.
Yeah, I think in January. So we're
seems
coming
like
up
forever.
on 9 months. That was when ChatGPT was just first out there. When we were talking about, if you don't start using it, you'll lose your job, right? And so we already look at copywriting a lot of people are getting laid off. Now you can go in and use the link between ChatGPT to Canva to create logos, websites. Hell, Joe Ingram put together a website through ChatGPT and Canva in no time flat. And it's a pretty impressive website. I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
There's still going to be people that are needed, but their fees are going to go down quite a bit.
Well, here's an example. I told you what happened to me, right? I was with this company, this whatever company, to do Facebook ads and for mortgage people. And their cost was exorbitant per month, right? But it was a normal at the time, which we'll just say $2,500 a month is an example I'm showing you. The same thing is being done now for 1/10 of the cost, for $200 a month. Because they've learned what happened is everybody had all this money and they were throwing money at it. And a year ago, loan officers ran out of money, and those companies went under in a day. They were like, oh shit. And now they're retooling on figuring out how to do stuff. So, and I see that going forward, it's going to be a lot cheaper for them what they're doing. It's the whole model of high level where it's like, okay, we're an agency, this is what we're going to do for you, and we're only going to charge you this, and here's all of our stuff so you can move forward. So you do your own ads, you start the ads, you do the stuff yourself, where before the other company did, but it wasn't worth $2,000.
Well, what's interesting is I did talk to a company that's local here in Dallas, and if they want to do your videos, 1 video a day, and I don't have all the specifics, but $3,500 a month, because the video is there. But like you said, for ads and everything else, those prices have gone down, but then video production has gone up. But it's interesting what is popular, what's not. The scariest thing for anybody should be whatever's a high paying job now may not always be a high paying job later, unless you're adapting and adjusting, or you're with the right company at the right time. But you and I know people, because especially with what you do, but I know several people that left corporate America to go into the real estate market, and they did freaking awesome during COVID. And I know some people who are back in corporate America. And then I know a few, like I reached out to a couple, I'm like, hey, how are you guys doing? They said, this is our best year ever. But they're going after high-end houses, 1.5 million plus, which in Texas, that isn't nearly like out where you're at. That's a big high-end market out here. So they can make more with less work versus doing the average housing that a lot of realtors were doing out here.
Right. And it's finding what's working, and
Yeah.
what's and retooling for that. It's much harder on the loan side. I mean, I'm still doing business, but nowhere close to what I was doing before. So I was
Right.
having amazing years prior to this. But I knew that it wouldn't last forever, but I also didn't think we would have problems like we have now in our industry. But I don't want to get into that. That's not the whole purpose of what I stated. It was just about there's change happens. And, we talked about this before. You need to really, and I saw this, Steve Sims was talking about one of his friends who said, when something happened to him, did this happen to me or did this happen for me? And it really fucking irritated me the day that I had to listen to something from him again or change my day. It's a joke, but it's like, wow. And I've been using that a lot because it's so true. These changes are either going to make you stronger and do something different. They're going to break you and figure out what you need. Maybe it's time for you to go do something else. We don't need, we lost 75,000 loan officers this last year, but we probably still don't need the amount of loan officers we have. I know in our county, we're only closing in this county, 286 loans a month. You figure a third of that is all cash. So that only leaves about 170 loans. And so you don't need 3,100 loan officers.
Right. Adding a 180 to what you're talking about, obviously don't jump to the latest fad at the same time. Right. There's a lot of people out there who have NFTs that aren't worth a damn anymore either, right? They sunk all their money.
I had a feeling that was going to go under, but
I still think long-term metaverse type stuff will be out there, where people want to go. What's that?
I was going to say, it's like .coms, the bubble and .coms, the bubble, everything people throw their money into is, like you said, the new fad. You want, you either want to be a first in or the last, or the very, very, very last in a few years after it's out.
I think with younger kids, like, I see kids on their iPads all the time, either playing Roblox or Minecraft, where they're going out and they're building little communities and stuff like that. I never got into playing The Sims as a kid, so I don't understand any of that.
They didn't have them at the time. Those were in puzzles, Sims. That was called Risk. Really? That was called Risk, the board game.
Yeah, Risk. I remember Risk. I used to play Risk, and what's the other one?
I'm just saying they didn't. Dude, the Sims we had are nothing like this. Yeah, this is totally.
No, I went and played with my daughter one day, and she's like, "Oh, look, I went over here and I built a house. I did this." And I'm still trying to figure out feel like a caveman going, oh, work, But it's interesting, the creativity and what they can do. But they're happy living in that digital world. Like, she still wants to go to the park and play with friends and things like that. But as the younger generation, the youngest right now, grows up, they've grown up with these digital worlds, and I can see long-term people wanting to do that. Kind of scares the shit out of me, kind of like Ready Player One, if you've seen that movie, where everybody just sits in their house and puts on VR goggles. But hopefully that's not the case, but you could see how it could go that way.
Right. Even though they use all this stuff, but they have no idea how to use a computer.
Right.
Yeah. Can you write me this on Word? What's Word?
What's this save icon? What is that? Nobody knows what a hard drive is, right?
Yeah, well, it's like they do if they have the games, because they add the external ones so that they can save their games on there, because the one internal one's not big enough. So
anywho.
All right, we kind of really got off subject today of the consistency we were supposed to be talking about. So
yes, that's okay. That just means we got it for next week. No, we did talk about personal brand. How do you build it? You're talking about, you post all the time. I'm starting to get better on posting. I go through those phases where some days I'll just record a bunch of videos, and then other days I'm like, But with having new tools, I can take what was a 1 hour long talk. It does the cutting up for me. I have to do some editing to it, but you can just slap it up there and you're good to go. Is AI perfect? No. Is it getting better? Yeah. But I guess I have to go in and adjust, because sometimes it picks the wrong part. Like, I'm talking, the video is looking way over here.
That's the issue with it. If you have two people talking, sometimes it's really great, and sometimes it's like, okay, they're top and bottom, and then I'll go to one person, and then it goes back to those, and then it goes, and it's not perfect. It's new. It's learning. Give it time. Exactly. But and if you use StreamYard like we do here, I mean, you can cut up your own little short, and then just add the stuff in very easily. And you can do the same thing with your long form, cut it down into shorter long form. So, which is, it's amazing that you can do that. So,
yes. Versus it used to be a skill that you had to farm out to someone else. And now technology is taking care of it.
Because they use these expensive softwares.
Adobe Editor, all that. Oh, yeah.
Now you don't have to. Yeah.
Right.
So I feel sorry for those companies, but anyway.
Yes.
You can. Is that it? Are we done?
Yeah, I think we're done. I think we hit 35 minutes. We're good.
All right. So we went a little longer than we wanted to. So, but thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Brian, thanks for being here. We really appreciate you watching this. I hope we helped at least one person today. If not, let us know and we can add to what we should be doing next week.